Before I tell you what happened, I need you to understand something. I had been married to this woman for 28 years. 28 years of trust, of sacrifice, of building a life brick by brick. And it took exactly 11 minutes standing in a corporate lobby holding a bag of takeout pasta for that entire life to collapse in front of me. Stick with me on this one, because the ending is not what you think it's going to be. This isn't just a story about an affair. This is a story about a man who got mad, went quiet, and then very methodically took everything back. If you like stories where the wronged spouse doesn't scream, doesn't cry in public, but instead becomes a surgeon with a scalpel, this one's for you. Let's get into it. My name is Marcus. I'm 51 years old, and for most of my adult life I was, by every outward measure, the quiet half of my marriage. My wife, Vanessa, was the storm. I was the harbor. We met at 23. I'd just finished my accounting degree. She was wrapping up her MBA at Northwestern. She was magnetic, the kind of person who mapped out her entire future in 5-year blocks, and then actually hit every target. I was steady, practical, the guy who balanced the checkbook, fixed the leaky faucet, and made sure the mortgage got paid on the first of the month, every month, without fail. And she loved that about me, or so she always said. She used to tell people I was her foundation, that she could take wild professional risks because she knew home would always be solid ground to land on. So she climbed. Director at 30, vice president at 35, and by 43, she was sitting in the corner office as CEO of Vantage Dynamics, a logistics software company she'd personally dragged out of near bankruptcy and turned into a $200 million machine in under a decade. I cheered for every single milestone, every late night, every canceled anniversary dinner, every weekend she spent buried in spreadsheets instead of with me. I told myself that was the price of loving someone brilliant. We never had kids. She'd been clear about that from the start, said children would slow down her trajectory, and I'd made peace with it. Her company was the child we raised together. Or that's the story I told myself. So on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, I decided to do something a little out of character. I wanted to surprise her. I picked up takeout from Bellini's, her favorite little Italian spot downtown, and drove across the city to her building, just to see her face light up in the middle of a boring workday. I had no idea I was about to walk directly into the wreckage of my own marriage. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that makes you feel slightly underdressed just standing in the lobby. A sign near the turnstiles read, "Authorized personnel only." I told the security guard I was Vanessa's husband, here to surprise her with lunch. He actually laughed. "Sir," he said, not unkindly, "I see her husband here every single day. In fact, there he is right now." He pointed toward the elevator bank. And there, strolling through the lobby like he owned the building, was a man in a charcoal Tom Ford suit. Early 40s. Expensive watch. The kind of confident, unhurried walk that says I have never once doubted myself in my life. He looked like he'd wandered off the cover of a business magazine. "Mr. Sterling," the guard called out, friendly, familiar. "Your wife's still wrapping up that 3 o'clock. Should be maybe 20 more minutes." "Your wife." The man, Derek Sterling, according to the badge clipped to his jacket, just nodded, pulled out his phone, and headed toward the elevators without so much as glancing my way. I stood there frozen, a bag of pasta going cold in my hand, feeling something strange happen in my chest. It wasn't panic exactly. It was more like an engine stalling, starting, stopping, starting again. 28 years of marriage, and apparently my wife had a second husband who worked in her building and whom the front desk staff greeted by name every single day. Every cell in my body wanted to march over, grab this man by the lapel of his very expensive suit, and demand an explanation right there in the lobby. Make a scene. Force the truth out into the open air where everyone could see it. But something held me back. Maybe it was the guard's tone, so breezy, so matter-of-fact, like this was common knowledge around the building. Like everyone already knew. Everyone except me. So instead, I did something that surprised even myself. I lied. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice level, "I think I've got the wrong building. I'm looking for Hallbrook Pharmaceuticals, not Vantage." The guard blinked. "You said you were Mrs. Sterling's husband." "Mrs. Sterling, not Mrs. Whitfield." "Sterling." No, just a family friend," I said quickly. "Name's Roberts." Long day, wires got crossed. I forced a laugh that felt like sandpaper in my throat, set the takeout bag on the security desk, and asked him to make sure it got up to her. Tell her a family friend named Roberts dropped it off. Then I walked out of that lobby before my legs could give out from under me. I sat in my car in the parking garage for what felt like an hour, hands locked on the steering wheel, running the tape back. Derek Sterling. I'd met him exactly once, 2 years earlier, at the company holiday party. Tall, charming, sharp. Vanessa had introduced him to me as one of my rising stars, and then spent the rest of the night deep in conversation with him while I made small talk with the other spouses by the bar. I hadn't thought twice about it. Why would I? I trusted her completely. But the guard hadn't said boyfriend. He hadn't said her business partner or the VP. He'd said husband. Every single day. I couldn't face going home yet. Not to the house I'd spent the whole morning cleaning. Not to the lasagna I'd made for her favorite dinner. Not to the Hamilton tickets hidden in my sock drawer that I'd bought to surprise her with for our anniversary. So instead I drove to a coffee shop a few blocks away and sat in a corner booth with a coffee I never touched. At 6:47 that evening, my phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Working late again. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at those 2 words, love you, for a long, long time. Did she? Or was I just the arrangement she kept running in the background while she built something else entirely? I typed and deleted a dozen replies before settling on something safe. Okay, lasagna's in the fridge. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. You're the best. See you tonight. I set the phone face down on the table and just breathed. She got home at 11:23 p.m. I was on the couch, pretending to read a book I'd been staring at, unread, for 3 hours. Hey, she said, dropping her bag by the door. Hair slightly mussed. Lipstick faded. How was your day? My voice came out completely normal. That surprised me more than anything else that night. Exhausting. Back-to-back meetings, board presentation at 4. Then Derek and I went through the whole Q3 forecast. She headed for the kitchen. Did you say there was lasagna? I listened to the familiar sounds of my wife moving through our kitchen, the microwave humming, the fridge opening and closing. Sounds I'd heard 10,000 times. Except now every single one of them felt like it belonged to a stranger. She came back with a plate and settled into the armchair. I actually swung by your office today, I said, casual as I could manage. Brought you lunch from Bellini's. She paused mid-bite. Just a fraction of a second. Most people wouldn't have caught it. I'd been married to her for 28 years. I caught it. You did? I never got anything. Gave it to Derek Sterling. Figured he'd pass it along. Oh, another bite. Another swallow. He didn't mention it. Probably got lost in the shuffle. Crazy day. She lied beautifully. Not a single crack. How is Derek, anyway? I asked. Great. Honestly, the best VP I've ever worked with. Really gets the vision. We're completely in sync. In sync. I smiled and told her that was wonderful. Important to have a strong working relationship, and we sat there the rest of the evening, her eating reheated lasagna, me pretending to read, like any ordinary married couple on any ordinary Tuesday. Except nothing about that night was ordinary at all. If you're enjoying this story so far, drop a comment with where you think this is headed, because trust me, it gets so much worse before it gets better. I waited until she was asleep. Vanessa always crashed hard. Years of running on caffeine and adrenaline had trained her body to shut down completely the second her head hit the pillow. By midnight, she was out. I went into her home study. The door was never locked. Why would it be? I was her husband. She trusted me completely. Her laptop sat closed but unlocked on the desk. I knew her password. I'd known it for years. It was our wedding date. I opened it with shaking hands, feeling like an intruder in my own house. Her email was already up, thousands of messages deep. I didn't know where to begin, so I started with her calendar. At first glance, everything looked mundane. Meetings, board calls, conferences. Then patterns started to surface. Dinner with D, 7 p.m., Il Canto. A candlelit, piano bar Italian place in the West Loop. Not exactly a spot you take a business associate for a status update. Weekend retreat, Cedar Point Resort. Vanessa had told me that was a women's leadership summit. I looked the resort up. $450 a night, per suite. I pulled her corporate card statement. 2 rooms booked at Cedar Point that weekend. One of them canceled the same day it was booked. 1 room, 2 people. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. I kept going. Dinner after dinner, trip after trip, 3 years of a pattern disguised as business, team building, client dinners, leadership retreats, and Derek Sterling's name attached to every single one. I closed the laptop and walked to the bedroom doorway. Watched her sleep. Peaceful, innocent looking. A woman I had never once doubted in 28 years, and she had been lying to my face for at least 3 of them. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 6 years. I work as a senior accountant. Good, stable, unremarkable work that pays the bills and never makes for interesting party conversation. Vanessa made triple my salary. I'd never resented it. Her success had always felt like our success. After she left for the office, I tore through every drawer, every file box, every corner of that study. And in the back of her jewelry drawer, tangled beneath a pile of costume necklaces she never wore, I found a single silver key. No label, just a small tag with an address printed on it. Harborview Residences, Unit 214. I knew the building. 30 stories, floor-to-ceiling glass, the kind of luxury high-rise where a studio starts around $2,500 a month. I'd driven past it 100 times without a second glance. I drove straight there. In the parking garage, space 214 had a black Mercedes SUV in it. Derek Sterling's car. I recognized it instantly from the company lot. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I rode the elevator up. The key fit the lock on the first try. Inside wasn't a rental. It was a home. Hardwood floors, tasteful furniture, fresh flowers on the coffee table. The whole place smelled like Vanessa's expensive perfume, the one she only wore for special occasions. Photos on the mantle showed the two of them at the beach, at a restaurant, hiking some mountain trail. In every single frame, her wedding ring was missing. The kitchen had 2 coffee mugs on the counter, his and hers. I moved through that apartment like I was walking through a dream I couldn't wake up from. The bedroom nearly brought me to my knees. Her clothes hanging in the closet right beside his suits, her shoes lined up next to his like an old married couple. On the dresser sat a folder labeled, in her unmistakable handwriting, Future Plans. I opened it. Real estate listings, homes in the 800,000 to 1.2 million range, all circled, with margin notes like good schools nearby and close to Derek's parents. Travel brochures for Santorini, Kyoto, New Zealand. Dream honeymoon material. And underneath all of it, divorce consultation summaries, dated 18 months earlier. She'd already met with 3 separate attorneys, comparing terms like she was shopping for a mortgage rate. The notes were clinical, cold, frame as irreconcilable differences. Cite Marcus's lack of ambition. Document his failure to support my career growth. Pages of evidence. Times I'd asked her to skip a work function, reframed as sabotage. Times I hadn't wanted to talk shop over dinner, reframed as emotional unavailability. My entire, ordinary marital existence rewritten as a legal case against me. The most recent entry, dated 3 weeks earlier. Timeline. File for divorce by January. Finalized by June. Wedding with D by Christmas. She had it all mapped. My replacement was already living with her part-time. Their dream house was already picked out. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was an obstacle on a project timeline. I photographed every page, every picture, every document. Then I sat down on their couch, in their apartment, inside their secret life, and let it sink in that my 28-year marriage had been quietly dying for at least 3 of those years, and I'd been the only one who didn't know it. I drove for hours after that. No destination, just movement, because sitting still felt unbearable. My phone rang at 3:47. Vanessa. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again, then a text. Where are you? Feeling better? I didn't answer. By 6, I finally listened to her voicemails. Her voice sounded genuinely worried. Hey honey, checking in, call me back? Marcus, I'm getting worried. You're not answering. I'm about to start calling hospitals. Please call me. She was good. Frighteningly good. I called back. Where have you been? I was terrified. Just needed to clear my head. I'm fine. You scared me half to death. Coming home. Home. What a word to use. Yeah. Be there soon. Good. I'm leaving early. I'll grab Ty on the way. Your favorite. A pause. Love you. You too. I said, and hung up before she could hear my voice crack. That night we ate pad CEW at our dining table while she recounted some invented crisis with a difficult board member. I nodded in all the right places. Played my part perfectly, all while knowing that in a matter of months, she planned to file for divorce and walk down an aisle with Derek Sterling. Later, curled up on the couch during a movie, her head resting on my shoulder just like 1,000 nights before, she said, quietly, Are we okay? You seem distant. Distant. That exact word, straight out of her file. Just still not feeling great, I told her. She squeezed my hand, told me to let her know if I needed anything. I lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, building a plan of my own. I called in sick again the next day. The moment she left for work, I went back into that study. Except this time, I wasn't just reading. I was auditing. I've been an accountant for 22 years. I know exactly how to trace where money disappears to. And once I knew what I was looking for, the pattern jumped off the page. Our joint checking account showed regular deposits from both our paychecks. Mine around $6,200 a month after taxes, hers closer to $11,000. Our combined monthly expenses ran about $8,500. By simple math, we should have been banking roughly $8,700 every month. Over 3 years, that's more than $300,000 that should have been sitting in savings. Our actual savings balance, just under $47,000. Where had $250,000 gone? I pulled her personal credit card, the one she always claimed was strictly for reimbursed business expenses. Harborview rent, over $3,200 a month, more than $115,000 across 3 years. Furniture from high-end retailers, another $24,000. Luxury travel, over $31,000. Endless dinners at restaurants I'd never even heard of. She had funded her entire secret life, the apartment, the trips, the future she was building without me, using money I had helped earn. While I drove a 10-year-old sedan and reheated leftovers for dinner, she was decorating a love nest with our joint account. I documented everything. 3 years of statements, downloaded, organized, time-stamped. Then I turned my attention to Vantage Dynamics itself, because something about the way Derek Sterling had been operating didn't sit right. Reading corporate filings is, frankly, my superpower. And what I found there was worse than the affair. Vanessa had been quietly restructuring departments, without board approval, funneling budget and key accounts toward Derek, effectively grooming him for a newly invented COO position. She was building him a ladder straight to the top of the company, using corporate resources to do it, all while making it look like smart leadership on her part. That's not just a broken marriage. That's a fiduciary breach, possibly fraud. I built a full timeline. Screenshots, transfers, board memos, the apartment photos, the divorce planning file. Every piece organized into one devastating narrative. Then I picked up the phone and called Richard Calloway, the chairman of Vantage's board. I'd met him twice, at company functions, a retired hedge fund veteran, sharp-eyed, in his late 60s. Richard, it's Marcus, Vanessa's husband. We met at the holiday party a couple years back. Of course. Everything all right. Is Vanessa okay? She's fine. I'm calling about something else, some concerns regarding the company. Do you have time to meet today? A long pause. I can be at your place in 2 hours. Richard arrived right on schedule, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car payment. I made coffee. We sat in my living room, the very room where Vanessa and I had celebrated anniversaries and watched 1,000 ordinary movie nights, a room that, it turned out, had just been a stage set for someone else's exit plan. I walked him through everything. The apartment, the photos, the divorce file, the financial trail, the corporate restructuring. His expression got darker with every slide. She's been redirecting capital budget without board sign-off, he said, almost to himself, straight into Sterling's department. He looked up. Why would she do that? I showed him the photos from the apartment. His jaw tightened. They're involved. More than involved. They're basically living together part-time. She's planning to divorce me, marry him, and she's been quietly building him a throne at the company at the same time. That's an enormous conflict of interest. She has a fiduciary duty to this board and to shareholders. He exhaled slowly. Do you have copies of all of this? Everything's on that drive. I handed it over. I need to call an emergency board session tonight. He stood, shook my hand. Marcus, I'm sorry for what she's put you through personally, but thank you. If this had gone unnoticed much longer, the damage to this company would have been catastrophic. I'm not doing this out of revenge, I told him, which was only partly true. I'm doing it because I'm done pretending not to see what's right in front of me. Vanessa got home early that evening, 6:15, far earlier than usual. I was in the kitchen making stir-fry. One look at her face told me the board meeting had already happened. You son of a... Her voice was shaking with rage. You called Richard Calloway. You're trying to destroy my career. I kept stirring vegetables, didn't turn around. I shared information the board needed to have. That's all this is to you? You went through my private files. You showed him photographs. Private files in our shared apartment, funded by our joint bank account. She grabbed my arm, spun me to face her. This is different. This is my professional reputation on the line. You mean the reputation you built while sleeping with your VP and restructuring the company to hand him a promotion? That's professional. Her face drained of color. What do you want? Money? The house? What? I don't want anything from you, Vanessa. You set all of this in motion 3 years ago. I'm just done playing the fool while you finish executing it. What plan? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos from Harborview. Her face in every frame, the folder labeled future plans. This plan, the one where you file for divorce by January, marry Derek by Christmas, and settle into your dream house in the suburbs. She sank into a kitchen chair. How did you? I found the key to your other life. 28 years, Marcus. 28 years I supported every choice you made. Every late night, every business trip, every sacrifice, because I loved you. Because I actually thought we were building something together. We were. No, you were building an exit strategy. I was just funding it. She started crying. Real tears this time, not the composed, performative kind. I'm sorry. I never wanted it to happen like this. How did you want it to happen? Were you going to tell me before or after the divorce papers were filed? Silence answered that question for her. I turned off the stove and grabbed my keys. Where are you going? She asked. A hotel. Divorce papers will be ready by Monday. I filed that Monday and hired Diane Whitcomb, a family law attorney with over 2 decades of experience. She looked over my evidence and actually let out a low whistle. This is one of the cleanest cases of marital misconduct I have ever seen. The secret apartment, the financial deception, the fully documented timeline of her planning to leave. You're going to come out of this very well. I don't care about coming out well, I told her. I just want out. You should still care, she said. She used marital funds to finance an affair. That's financial infidelity, and Illinois courts take it seriously. The board convened that same week. Richard called me afterward. Derek Sterling's been terminated, effective immediately. Vanessa's on administrative leave. Her authority's been suspended pending a full investigation, and the restructuring is being reversed. We've brought in forensic accountants for a complete audit. If she's found to have breached fiduciary duty, this could go beyond termination. We're talking possible criminal exposure. She built a house of cards, I said, and you knocked it down. Vanessa called me that night. I was sitting in a hotel room near the airport eating cold takeout, watching sports highlights with the sound off. You've ruined everything, she said, crying. Derek lost his job. The board's investigating me. My career is over. How could you do this? How could I? You spent 3 years planning my replacement. You pulled $250,000 out of our joint account to fund an affair. You committed corporate fraud to hand your boyfriend a promotion. And you're asking how I could do this. I was going to tell you, after the divorce, after the wedding. I know everything, Vanessa. The apartment, the lawyers, the timeline, the real estate listings. All of it. You knew about all of that. Every page. Please, she said, voice breaking. We can fix this. I'll end things with Derek. We'll go to counseling. Anything. Derek already lost his job because of you. And now you're ready to throw him away too? At least be consistent about who you betray. That's not fair. Fair. I actually laughed, and it came out bitter. You spent 28 years building my trust just so you could pull off the perfect betrayal. You documented every small argument like evidence in a trial while I was cooking dinner and doing your laundry and cheering for your promotions. I loved you. No, you loved what I provided. Stability. Security. A foundation to stand on while you built your empire somewhere else. The second someone came along who fit your new life better, you started drafting the paperwork to trade me in. She was sobbing now. 28 years has to mean something, Marcus. It did. Past tense. You ended it the day you picked up the key to apartment 214. I hung up. She called back 6 more times. I blocked her number for good. The divorce took 4 months. She fought it early on, but the evidence was overwhelming, and eventually even her own lawyer told her to settle. I kept the house. She kept her car and what was left of her reputation. The board's investigation confirmed everything. Vanessa had violated her fiduciary duty by restructuring company operations to benefit her personal relationship. She was forced to resign that March. No golden parachute. No soft landing. Just gone. Derek sued both Vanessa and Vantage Dynamics for wrongful termination. The case was thrown out almost immediately. Turns out sleeping with the CEO while benefiting from an unauthorized corporate shakeup is, shockingly, a fireable offense. I heard through the grapevine that the two of them broke up about 3 months after everything came crashing down. He blamed her for torching his career. She blamed him for not being worth what she'd sacrificed. Neither one of them, as far as I could tell, ever stopped to blame themselves. I sold the house that June. Too many ghosts in the walls. Bought a smaller condo near the lake instead. Simpler. Quieter. Entirely mine. I started dating again that August. Nothing serious at first. just testing whether I still knew how to trust anyone. It was slow going. My therapist tells me that's completely normal, that betrayal on this scale takes real time to process, and that I shouldn't try to rush past it. So I'm not rushing. One day, one honest choice at a time. About 8 months after the divorce finalized, I ran into Vanessa at a grocery store. She'd lost weight, looked worn down. Our eyes met for a second across the produce section. She froze. I nodded once and kept walking. She didn't follow. Part of me wondered, just for a moment, if I should feel sorry for her. She'd lost her career, her relationship, her reputation, basically everything she'd spent a decade building. Then I remembered the folder labeled future plans. The cold notes about my lack of ambition. Apartment 214, with its 2 coffee mugs and her missing wedding ring in every photo. I didn't feel sorry. I just felt free. About 2 years after everything blew up, I got a message out of nowhere from Derek Sterling. Said he knew he had no right to reach out, but he wanted to apologize. Said he'd known she was married the whole time. Said they'd told themselves the marriage was already over, that it justified everything they were doing. Said I deserved better. Said the whole company deserved better. I read it twice. Then I closed it without ever replying. Some apologies just come too late to matter. Some betrayals don't earn forgiveness. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can hand someone who helped burn your life down is silence. People still ask me if I regret how I handled it, whether I should have confronted her quietly, one-on-one, given her the chance to explain herself before I went to the board. The answer's always no. She'd had 3 years to explain. 3 years to come clean. 3 years to choose our marriage over that apartment, over Derek, over the future she was quietly building without me in it. She made her choice a long time before I ever found that key. All I did was make sure everyone else finally knew what she'd already decided. These days, I'm sitting in my condo on a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee, and my phone buzzes. It's Amy, someone I met at a bookstore a while back, someone who knows my entire story and chose to stick around anyway. Brunch at 11? That French place you love. I smile and type back. Perfect. See you there. I look out at the water. It's gray today, a little choppy. But behind me, my home is quiet. Small. Honest. No secret apartments. No hidden folders. No second husband waiting by the elevators. Just the truth. Simple. It cost me plenty to get here, but it was worth every bit of it. If this story hit home for you, let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, we've got plenty more where this came from.